Jazz, the seventh studio album by Queen, and the final album to be produced by Roy Thomas Baker. Baker had produced the first 4 albums by Queen, leaving after A Night at the Opera and returning for Jazz, which was their final project together. Though featuring some of Queen's most beloved songs, Jazz was panned by critics. Dave Marsh of Rolling Stone magazine wrote, "There's no jazz on Queen's new record. Queen hasn't the imagination to play jazz. Queen hasn't the imagination, for that matter, to play rock and roll." Pretty harsh, right? Queen had built a formula since Sheer Heart Attack of cramming many different styles of music into each album, a formula I always liked. This album definitely had some great tracks on it, but also some pretty forgettable ones as well. This was the band's follow-up to the 1977 album News of the World, once rumoured to be called Duck Soup following the trend of A Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races being named after Marx Brothers films. A funny, though probably false thing I once heard was that Groucho Marx had told Queen that they could name their next album after his upcoming movie, which he would be calling Queen's Greatest Hits. Though I think that's probably wrong, and I can't find any evidence online for that, and I think that's kind of funny anyway, and I hope he did say it. Let's start as we would in the record shop, with the cover. The cover was proposed by Roger Taylor, because he'd seen a similar picture painted on the Berlin Wall, and I guess that must have made a big enough impression. The title seems to be a random choice, as there is no hint of jazz or theme of jazz on the album, although apparently Freddie Mercury was at the time a big fan of the Montreal Jazz Festival. Maybe there are dots to connect there. The album begins with a song called Mustafa, penned by Mercury. It's definitely an oddity, consisting of English, Arabic, Persian, and some probably made-up words. Not the first slightly out-of-place, weird religious-themed song to appear on a Queen album, though. Obviously with the debut album featuring Jesus. I think this was a strong opener for the album. Much like the Beach Boys' Smile, I like the idea of beginning with a prayer. Next up, we have Fat Bottomed Girls by Brian May. This is a song known by anyone who has ever owned or listened to a copy of Queen's Greatest Hits, so pretty much everybody on this planet. On this record, however, you will hear an extended version featuring an extra long intro. It doesn't really add anything of value to the song, but it's definitely interesting to hear. Third up, we have Jealousy. This is a song I've always liked. Well written, again by Mercury, and well played by May, using a small piece of fret wire to make his guitar sound like a sitar. And next, we have The Almighty Bicycle Race, another song known by all Queen fans and, well, most of the human race. It features a callback to Fat Bottomed Girls, a guitar race inspired by watching the Tour de France, and a playful mention of Star Wars, one of the most important topics of that time. Now, I could go into great detail about the video for the song, hiring Wimbledon Stadium and several dozen bikes for 65 nude women and then having to pay for the seats because, well, But we don't need to go into all that. The next is a song by John Deacon called If You Can't Beat Them. It's not a bad tune, but with the fear of this review going on too damn long and boring everyone to death, including myself, I think I'm going to have to skim some of these tracks. This brings us to the end of side 1 with the closing track, Let Me Entertain You, not to be confused with the Robbie Williams one from 1997. Though honestly, I've always felt that both songs do pretty much the same thing, both being ego trips. So this is where the album becomes kind of uneven, with side 1 being very strong and side 2 having only one memorable song on it. Luckily though, it's one of the band's most memorable songs of all time, so I guess it carries side 2 on its own. Well, sort of. Side 2 kicks off with Dead on Time by May. Some aggressive guitar work and some good drums, but never played live and forgotten about very quickly. Moving on. In Only 7 Days, Deacon's other song on the album. Nothing I find particularly remarkable here. Gonna have to skim. Third up, it's Dreamer's Ball, Brian May's tribute to Elvis Presley, who died the year before. Interestingly enough, Mercury would also write a tribute song for John Lennon on the album Hot Space some years later, called Life is Real. The next track on the album, titled Fun It, It's certainly one I find interesting, because it's a disco funk song by Roger Taylor. That's right, the same Roger Taylor who became angry and publicly declared some years later that he didn't like the funk disco gay club direction the band were going in.
There might be a couple of songs come out that you really don't like very much. I could name a couple. I don't like everything that we do. I like a lot of what we do, but I don't like everything.
Yet proven here that he started it all off with this song that can be seen as a precursor to Another One Bites the Dust. The next track, Leaving Home Ain't Easy, by Brian May, is another skim for me, I'm afraid. But honestly, you don't have to take my word for it. I mean, go and listen to the album, listen to all the tracks that I'm skimming, and they might even be your favourites. You might hate the ones I like and love the ones I hate. But there we go, that's the thing about reviews. Anyway, skim this one for now. Now, this brings us to Don't Stop Me Now, a top 10 hit and one of Queen's most famous songs of all time. And despite its popularity, Brian May was not a fan, as he felt it was celebrating the hedonistic and risky lifestyle. And because it was about a time in Mercury's life when he was taking lots of drugs and having sex with lots of men, something the rest of the band, despite being in a flamboyant rock, previously glam rock band called Queen, did not particularly approve of. The final track of the album is one I have the most mixed feelings about. Okay, it starts strong, written by Taylor, who plays most of the instruments and sings most of the vocals, if not all of them. The vocals are actually pretty good, I like them. The lyrics are weird. So here's some. Only football gives us thrills, rock and roll just pays the bills. Now, for someone like me that hates football, I find that kind of disappointing. And then the end of the song is absolutely fucking abysmal. For some insane reason, they stick tiny snippets of all the other songs into this track in a jumbled, disjointed manner that sounds messy and unpleasant. I think I can sort of see where they were coming from, like it's something you do in prog rock, but you do it better. And for the band that had achieved, Bohemian Rhapsody a few years earlier, you'd expect better, man. I mean, also, their prog rock days were already way behind them by this point. I think it was an incredibly clumsy and silly way to end the album, and I'll never understand it. So, all in all, a definitely half-decent but quite strange record. Not the most bizarre work by Queen, but I don't expect I'll get any requests to review Hot Space. And to be honest, I don't really want to open Pandora's box anyway. Okay, so that was a review of the album Jazz by Queen. We have been The Good, The Bad and The Ugly Show. Please hit the subscribe button and like this video. Unless you didn't like it and then, do nothing. But tune in next time.